You can tell that I don't smoke cigars as much because I've really fucked up the lighting. I burned the wrapper on the outside here. Hopefully it doesn't ruin things too much. I usually smoke my pipe. Now I feel like an asshole. Technically it's cold. It's like 40 degrees. Which is why I'm wearing a jacket. And I have my unicorn onesie on. Because it's Saturday and I'm relaxing. Can't you tell that I'm relaxing? Alright. Now we can see where I've caused a problem. Some uneven burning. This will be a mission. See if I can fix it. Got some homemade cold brew coffee here. Yes, absolutely. It's not pretty, but it's looking better than it did. I think it's going to be okay. But again, we'll see. It's 10 in the morning. I guess that's late enough for car alarms and neighbors. Although I'd prefer just the birds. neighbors speak loudly and often, and outside. Well, I'm assuming outside. Gotta be outside. Otherwise, that would be quite a voice. Hanging out like me, I guess. But with company. I'm pretty sure it's telephone company though, because I hear the one voice, sometimes another. I would like to meet them at some point. I've only been here for a little over a month. But I think it would be good if introductions were made. I've got, I think, 8 people in the building here. 8 units, I should say. And maybe I should make some sort of baked good. I could take my baked good and I could pass it around to the various neighbors. And I could say, hello, I'm your neighbor. And then, when it really becomes summer, I could have a block party. But instead of a block party, it'll be a building party. And we could open all of our doors, and we could all make margaritas and hang out on each other's balconies and have a real hootenanny. But none of that's going to be possible without introductions. Alright, so I feel like things are looking better here. I've got quite a cake going right now. My only fear is that it's going to fall off into my lap and burn me, and then I'm going to discover that the middle has not been burning well, and it's going to be this pointy thing that I refer to as a dog's dick, because dogs have pointy dicks, and I don't want that. We shall see. Aha! Okay. We've got a little bit of a dog's dick, but not as bad as I anticipated, so we'll just keep going and hopefully we can keep fixing it. the first tobacco lounge I ever went to, one that I went to for years and years and years, over 10 years, I'd say, was at a place called Tobacco Republic in Loomis, California. And I would go in there and soak up all the wisdom, because there was all these retired guys who'd go in there like every day, and I'd just listen to their stories. And I want to say I didn't even speak. I would sit in the circle, the main circle, these leather couches, and I just listened to them talk, and I don't think I spoke for at least 3 months. And then every once in a while I would say one thing, just chime in just a little. Then eventually, after maybe a year or so, I would say a little bit more, and sometimes they'd ask me questions, because we had become, cigar friends at that point. But I always kept my speaking to a minimum there, because everything I had to say was just, kind of shit compared to what they had to say, because they had so much more experience and so many great stories. Why would I speak that much in a place like that? It wouldn't make sense. Anyway, one of the managers there, one of the guys who ran the place, Richard. Well, I'd say Richard and Eric, both of them. They would light your cigar for you. They would offer to light your cigar for you when you went in there. You want me to light it up for you? And they knew how to twirl the cigar in their fingers while holding it in one hand, and then also lighting it with the other hand in such a perfect manner that they would get this perfect this perfect toast on the outside, and then a couple puffs and I'd be good to go, and just a perfect smoke every time. And I wish I could learn that twirling technique, but I don't know who to learn it from at this point, because I'm in Colorado now and they're in Loomis. Well, actually one of them went off and retired in Costa Rica. For all I know, the other one isn't there either. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys died because they were incredibly old. But there's gotta be somebody out there who knows the twirling technique. I need to find that person and learn. That'd be a nice thing to know. Tastes very good. Oh, there you are. I am taken aback by just how much noise there is already. You know, machine noise. I don't even know what it is. There's a lot of renovations and maintenance things going on, I guess. They have to run their machines. Well, at least that one turned off. That one was the most disturbing. There's another one running in the distance, but it's more akin to a purr The other one was sort of drowning out my thoughts. One day, I'll come out here and it'll just be silent. In fact, once it's warm enough, I'll just come out here really early and there'll be no chance of noise. I could hang out at night too, and it won't be too cold, and there'll be a smaller chance of noise, I'm guessing. This has got to be put together really well, because it's fixing itself. You know, I really screwed up that beginning light, but it's looking pretty good at this point. It's an Ashton cabinet, in case you were wondering. It's my first time trying it. One of the owners of my local cigar lounge recommended this, and I think it's a good recommendation. Goes good with the cold brew for sure. Oh. I don't mind the barking. I'll take the barking over the machines any day. I know that I've had Ashtons before, for sure. And tasting this right now, smelling it, I'm wondering if maybe I did have an Ashton cabinet at some point. If I did, it was a long, long, long time ago. But I feel like it's drawing me back. There's some sort of nostalgic journey going on right now that I was not anticipating. No distinct memories, just feelings, but I know that the feelings are feelings that were rather than feelings that are. It's the emptiness, the happy, good, liberating emptiness of youth. I mean, I'm not an old man by any means, but I am a man. And I'm feeling the emptiness of, a young man when I was 20 years old. And I could really be somewhere and completely forget about responsibilities because I didn't have too many of them. Well, I don't know if that's true. It's a mind thing as well, I think. I think the young mind knows that it's young, and maybe there's something subconsciously that kind of reminds you, hey, you could screw everything up and you're still young enough to fix it because you have enough time to fix it. Not to say that I couldn't fix things, but I don't know, I was also not married, so I only had to be responsible for myself. But when you have to be responsible for someone else, not for someone else, but to someone else, you have to be accountable for your actions because you're depending on each other, so you can't really go bananas and just have your own consequences. You're gonna spread those consequences to your spouse, and that's not okay. So I guess in a sense there's that. And I guess also at this point, the things that I'm doing are things that I care about. The things that I've chosen to be responsible for are things that I want to be responsible for. Whereas when I was younger, it was just, I had to make money so that I could pay rent and have fun and live. So my work was not a priority, and I had no dedication to it necessarily. But now I like the work I'm doing, and I do it not just to pay rent, but to save and to eventually own a home and take care of children that I've yet to have. I do have to work tomorrow. If I had like a week off, I'm sure I could get back to some semblance of that space. But there's something nice about knowing you have responsibilities that you really care about too. I guess when I was younger, I just I didn't have the option of smoking a cigar and remembering the future feelings. Otherwise, I'm sure I'd feel nostalgia for those as well. I may have gotten some ash in my cold brew, but I'm going to try and pretend like I don't know that. Does the unicorn confuse the camera? Maybe. Is it warm enough to not be unicorned? For now. I might have to put my horn back on soon, but I'll give it a go. I had a really great breakfast. I made eggs Florentine. They were almost perfect. Almost. My one mistake was in making the hollandaise, which is always where the mistake's gonna be, I guess. Well, no. The poached eggs are a bit of a challenge as well. But I feel like I'm getting a hold on those. The hollandaise I usually get perfect because I'll make them over a double boil, which is what you're meant to do. But I was trying a shortcut method today using a stick blender and just using the heat from the melted butter, very hot butter, to add the heat, because you need heat, but it wasn't thick enough. I also think maybe I should have used 4 yolks instead of 2 yolks, or 3 yolks. But really, I think I just prefer sticking with the double boil method. It's more satisfying anyway. There's also the fact that the method calls for the use of a blender rather than a stick blender. And perhaps the stick blender is just not powerful enough, doesn't generate enough heat. I wouldn't be ashamed to use the shortcut method if it worked well. It is a bit faster, but is it that much faster? I don't know. My wife got a mint plant, and it's hanging out near my feet right now, taking in the sun as well. I like that a lot. Currently, I am on a what you would call a weight loss journey, and I want to make mint juleps and mojitos with the mint, but I can't drink right now because A, it's liquid calories that I just can't afford, and B, when I drink, I tend to want to eat more. I get excited about food. Given the meal I did make today was quite heavy, but I'll be eating lighter throughout the rest of the day to make up for it. But, normally I wouldn't be so strict, but I made a bet. And I have a lot of progress to make. And I have 1 month to go. So I don't want to lose the bet. And I think winning the bet is worth it for me. After that, mint juleps are on the horizon for sure. But in the meantime, I think I could use the mint in a pasta salad, orzo salad, some sort of salad. Neighbor's vacuuming. I think I might vacuum today too. Something satisfying about vacuuming. Of course, it scares the heck out of my cat. Poor thing. She'll go and hide in some spot in the house, and then eventually I get to her. She has to dart out and go hide somewhere else. It's a bit sad, but there's also something funny about it. So illogical. Just always afraid of it, no matter what. Maybe when she's older. I mean, she's already like 6 years old, but that was not a very thorough vacuuming. My cold brew is becoming a lukewarm brew, or luke cold, because it's like lukewarm but on the cold spectrum. I don't know what I would call that. I'm sure there's a word that I should know. Yesterday I had a very small cigar. Just a little bit bigger than this, I would say. Come on. There we go. A little bit bigger than this one, the way that it is now. But this one is smoking so much faster. Maybe I'm just puffing on it more. I was reading yesterday as I was smoking. I was rereading. I'm still rereading. It's a long book. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Freaking love that book. It's so weird. It's about the Buendia family and their town, their village, their city of Macondo. And not this recent chapter, but the last chapter, the whole village was struck by a disease. It was an insomnia plague. So the whole frickin' village had insomnia, and they didn't sleep for months. And actually they didn't sleep for months, and they were all stoked about it at first because they were getting all this stuff done. But the bad side effect is that eventually you stop remembering things. You lose your memory. So they had to start putting notes all over the place, and eventually it was so bad that they had to put a note on every item in the village, because they had forgotten the names of everything, and they had no idea how they were related to each other, or nobody knew anybody. It was bad. They were descending into complete chaos, and eventually they were going to forget how to eat and just die. But luckily, oh my god. What is that? Oh, it's the garbage truck. Eventually, a once dead gypsy came back from the dead and happened to have the cure. So he provided that, and all was well. And that's just one example of the absurdity. It's fantastic. Love it. I wasn't reading for a long time. I want to say I didn't read a book for maybe maybe 2 years without reading a book. And I used to read all the time. But I was listening to audiobooks, but they were all nonfiction because I can't stand trying to listen to fiction. It's just not the same for me. I don't get in it. But the audiobooks, the nonfiction audiobooks, I'm into that, and I like to listen to them while I'm doing other things. In fact, that is my excuse for not reading for so long, because I have so much to do. I don't have time to read. But, undoubtedly, I was still spending time watching shows. I'd say mostly watching shows during my downtime, but it's not as rewarding as smoking a cigar, smoking my pipe, reading, doing those things while I'm reading, drinking scotch, playing games, board games, or even video games for that matter. Although I haven't played a video game in quite some time either. I guess the reading you have to do alone, and I like to make sure that I spend time with my wife. We don't have kids, and I know when we do have kids it'll be harder to spend time together. So I'm trying to spend time with her while I can, but reading, I don't know, we've read side by side before, that's not so bad. But when you're watching a show, you can watch it together. So there's that. But I really like just sitting out here with her and chatting while we have a drink or coffee or tobacco, and then also playing board games. We've got a 2-player board game we've been playing called Patchwork, which I find to be quite fun. You've got a board and you're building a quilt. I know it sounds incredibly boring, but it's quite fun. You have to build the best quilt. Well, they say you have to build the best quilt, but really it's about how many buttons you save. And then there's another game called Rivals for Catan, which is pretty fun, a little bit more involved. My father designs board games as a hobby, and he could design them professionally. I think if he had, I don't know, he has the talent to make the games for sure, but currently I don't think he has the knowledge of everything else involved, the making of connections, the promoting, whatever else, pretty much everything that isn't making the games. I don't think he has that knowledge right now, and he has not taken the time to learn it just yet. If I ever won the lottery, though, I would give money to friends and family members with conditions, and those conditions would be, you have to do this, you have to pursue this. Here, Dad, here's $1 million. Well, maybe $1 million's too much, because then you wouldn't have to do anything. Here, Dad, here's 200 grand. I'll let you keep this, but you have to spend, 4 hours a day working on games and figuring all that out. My sister. My sister is a jiu-jitsu fighter. And I think her condition would be that she has to, well, I don't know enough about jiu-jitsu, so I'd say do something with jiu-jitsu. Make a jiu-jitsu business of some sort. That would be her thing. Start a, I don't know, jiu-jitsu outreach program or something. Whatever she wants. She would have more flexibility. But my father, sir, you're making games. You have no choice. My brother, I would just make him do stand-up comedy. You have to do stand-up comedy from now on. It's your only work. You're not allowed to do any other work. You have to write jokes, and you have to go to clubs, and you have to perform stand-up comedy, and that's all you get to do. Otherwise, you don't get your 200,000. I mean, it'd be a nice thing, right? I think it'd be a nice thing. Oh, my friend Cole. Normally, I would want him to write songs and be a musician and just do that, but the jerk went and became a firefighter, and I can't tell him not to do that because that's important. So I don't know. I might just have to give him the money and tell him, good job, you've done it. Or maybe I could tell him, like, hey, you'll be a firefighter until you're 45. Then you have to stop and make a bunch of music. Here's $1 million. My wife, I would tell her to write books. Write books, honey. Don't work anymore. Write books. Here's half of our winnings. I wouldn't really have a choice there. I would strongly recommend it. I would plea. I'd say, please write books now. my friend Bruce, I would tell him, well, he's kind of a wild card. 'Cause he's very artistic, but in a very eclectic way. I almost feel like he could be a performance artist, but I would just tell him to make art. Just in general, make art. Start a movement. Start several movements. Start a cult. Like a good cult, you know? A cult with no evil motives or evil results. Have such cults existed? I don't know. If they did, we probably wouldn't hear about them, because we pay attention to bad things because we want to avoid bad things. It's important to look at bad things so that we can avoid them. His wife, Lavissa, she's already a seamstress, but she's also going to school. I just assume everybody wants to be creative and only be creative, but I don't know. I would ask her if she wants to do other things. But if not, be a seamstress and do that. As for myself, I would have plenty to do. I would make music. I would make lots and lots of music. I would write books. And I would make short films. I would also own a meadery. And eventually, with time, perhaps I would open up a distillery, making single malts. Experimenting. I'm still going to try to do those things, but it's not as easy when you don't have millions and millions of dollars, I think. I feel like if I had millions and millions of dollars, it would be like I'm taking a ball and at the top of a hill, pushing the ball. And then the ball rolls down the hill, and the hill ends when I die. But doing it starting from nothing, or starting from where I am now as a normal person, with not very much money at all, it would be like pushing a ball up a hill for many, many years, and then getting to the top, and then the ball rolls. However, I think that the hill that the ball would be rolling down, when you have millions and millions of dollars to start that you haven't earned, would not be as steep as the hill that you had to push the ball up. I imagine that hill would be incredibly steep. At least that's what I like to tell myself, so that I'm not jealous of those who came from money and pursued their dreams with the money that they didn't have to work for. Either way, I am who I am where I am, and that's where I have to work from. So I'll do my best. I believe the day has finally given me the relative silence I was hoping for. I hear birds and occasional dogs, but not much else, and that's what I prefer. My cigar is doing just fine, despite the terrible way we started off our relationship. My fault, of course. It's a good day. It's a good life.